Hey everybody, Izzy Craze 365 here, and welcome back to a little bit more of, well, not the Kingdom Hearts 2 story anymore. This is Kingdom Hearts 2.5 Explained. So for those of you who've been following me, I recently just finished my playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 2, the final mix, for PS3. And as you can see right up there on the date, it is January 27th. This has all been a culmination for the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, which is releasing January 29th, 2019. So that is a mere 2 days away, and I'm really excited about it. But before we get into that, I figured that we should unpack what Kingdom Hearts 2.5 provided with us. So we're really quickly going to jump right into this game and get right to it, really. So, Kingdom Hearts 2.5 consists of 3 games, and we'll actually get to the main menu in just a second. But as you will see, it is going to be Kingdom Hearts 2, which we just had a full playthrough of the final mix. Kingdom Hearts, oh my gosh, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and Kingdom Hearts Recoded. I really love Kingdom Hearts 2. It's one of my favorite games in the series. Birth by Sleep, I absolutely adored. I'll be honest, I never played Kingdom Hearts Recoded, but after seeing the cutscenes, I'm very glad I didn't, because it would have just annoyed me. So, real quick, so again, we have Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, the final mix, and Kingdom Hearts Recoded. And both of these games are fantastic, or all of these games are fantastic for the most part. And what I want to do now is I just want to talk exclusively about the story of each game and how it is relevant to the series as a whole. I already did an unpacking of Kingdom Hearts 1.5, which again consisted of Kingdom Hearts 1, the final mix, Chain of Memories, and 350 over 2 days. And that pretty much was the beginning of the game series. It consisted of Kingdom Hearts 1, which was the beginning of pretty much everything in the Kingdom Hearts world, and then Chain of Memories and 350 over 2 days were the immediate after games of it. So if you have Kingdom Hearts 1 here, Chain of Memories follows Sora's path, and it continues in the timeline, and 350 over 2 days follows Roxas's path on the timeline, but they're, linear. Like, Chain of Memories technically happens a little bit earlier than 350 over 2 days, and in 350 over 2 days, it explains when Chain of Memories happens. Not going to go into a ton of that right now, because I have another video explaining it, but their pathways recombined and reconnect in Kingdom Hearts 2, which is where we pick up here. Birth by Sleep is a prequel game 10 years prior to Kingdom Hearts 1, the events, and it pretty much sets up the entire game, because in that game, there are no Heartless. And then Recoded, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Recoded because it pretty much is a game that takes place between the end of the game of Kingdom Hearts 2 and it goes up until the cutscene that we saw at the very end of the game where Riku, Sora, and Kairi get a letter in a bottle that is from King Mickey. So I will go very lightly into detail about that game, but there's not a whole lot there as far as what needs to be unpacked. However, Kingdom Hearts 2 and Birth by Sleep do deserve quite a bit of unpacking, and because they actually added a little bit of new functionality to how these games, or rather the 2.5 final mix plays, we are actually going to be able to jump right into the final mix main screen and then back out to these. So we're going to take full advantage of that. We're going to jump first into Kingdom Hearts 2. And I'm just going to let this play in the background. What we see in the... well, there's a cinematic that just starts playing automatically when you don't do anything in the commands when you're in a game menu. And it pretty much tells you everything you need to know about Kingdom Hearts 2, at least the relevant stuff. So as far as Kingdom Hearts 2, we open up with Roxas. At the beginning of the game, you don't know who Roxas is, but anybody who's played Kingdom Hearts can tell you now that Roxas is Sora's nobody. What does that mean? What is a nobody? Well, whenever a person becomes a Heartless, they succumb to the darkness in their heart becomes the Heartless. The Heartless, the darkness in the heart surrounds the Heartless, and it becomes a Heartless. And the husk that is left over, which never should have existed, the body, becomes a nobody, and very powerful nobodies can actually retain intelligence, and they are often recruited by members of Organization 13. And Organization 13 is kind of like this. It is effectively the main antagonist over the course of the entire series of the Kingdom Hearts games. The thing is, they're barely mentioned in Kingdom Hearts 1, and the rest of the games have kind of built them up to be this gigantic entity of darkness that we now know. And throughout each game series, or each individual game, the meaning of what Organization 13 was and what they're plotting has slightly changed. So we are first introduced to them in 350 over 2 days, and they're just 13 people who, are nobodies, and they want to exist. And how they do that is, the plan is they want to attain Kingdom Hearts. And once they get there, they'll be able to regain a heart, the piece of them that is lost. And we'll get a little bit more into that at the very end of this Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix talk, because that's pretty much what it is. And here starts the cutscenes. But effectively, after you play as Roxas, he goes around, he doesn't have any memories. He is literally trapped in a virtual world created by Diz. Diz is actually Ansem the Wise, who is seeking revenge on the organization, because the first 6 members of the organization were his apprentices, were people who worked for him. So you have Zemnis, who is actually Xehanort, who was his first and foremost apprentice. You have Zigbar, who was his chauffeur. You have Zaldin and... I'm going to butcher half these names, but Zaldin and the dude with the hammer sword, I think his name is Lexarius, they were 2 of the castle guards. Vexen, Evan, was one of the main researchers. So he wants revenge, and he realizes a way to do that is to, stop them in their goal of existing and getting back Kingdom Hearts. And he realizes he can do this with the power of the Keyblade, which is Sora's. But Sora is not whole right now at the beginning of the game, because he lost his memories, but also at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, when Sora became a Heartless, he had a nobody, so he lost a piece of himself. The only reason he was able to revert back to being a human was because Kairi used her power as one of the Princesses of Heart and her connection to Sora to bring him back. So Diz pretty much throws Roxas here into a digital version of Twilight Town, and he pretty much has Riku there, who has the form of Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, pretty much babysit him. And they erase Roxas's memories, they implant new ones, and they pretty much, force him. And over the course of Twilight Town, he's slowly remembering who he was, becoming more of what he remembers. And he goes along, and, he even fights his best friend Axel. We find out how close they became in 350 over 2 days. Meanwhile, Kairi is, at Destiny Islands, and everybody who met Sora before Kingdom Hearts 2 started doesn't remember him, because he doesn't have memories. And the act of making Sora wake up returns those memories to everyone. So, and the saddest part of this is his mother, back on Destiny Islands, doesn't remember him. Kairi doesn't remember Sora. She knows there was a boy that she used to play with along with Riku. She doesn't remember what his name is. Doesn't remember any details about him. The other friends they had on Destiny Islands don't remember him. The other people from the worlds, the Final Fantasy characters, say we didn't remember you. But then we all remembered you at the same time. Also, these are showing all the secondary fight scenes, these clips, from each of the worlds, which I love. This pretty much gives you a spoiler for everything. But once Sora's memories go back into himself, he wakes up, and Roxas realizes, that he was told repeatedly by Diz and other members of the organization that nobodies are not supposed to exist. He's not supposed to exist. And he gets angry about that, and he kind of goes off on his own, because he's no longer needed. And now that Sora's around, the organization kind of sits back and they're like, okay, we had Roxas collecting hearts for us so we could create Kingdom Hearts because he had a Keyblade. Now Sora's awake and he's doing it anyway, so we're just going to let him do what he's going to do. And if he needs motivation, maybe we'll kidnap Kairi. Maybe we'll, push him in a direction. Again, at the beginning of this game, there's only 6 members of the organization left. Axel has effectively left. Roxas also defected. And the other members, 6 of them, were killed off in the events of Chain of Memories. So there's not a whole lot going on as far as the organization. They're really just manipulating the strings in the background and aren't actually a public threat until closer to the end of the game. Now, as far as what Sora's actually doing over the course of this game, once he gets his memories back, he's told by Master Yen Sid, who used to be a Keyblade Master but is no longer one, and that's an entire thing in Birth by Sleep, that the Heartless have been reappearing in all the worlds, as well as the Nobodies. And Nobodies are being controlled by Organization 13. Nobodies look up to the strongest Nobody, and they take orders from them. The Heartless will just follow whoever is the strongest, who has darkness within them. Hence why Maleficent is, such a powerful factor in these games, because she is a very strong presence of darkness. However, even Xemnas, leader of Organization, has more darkness in him than she does, so she can't control Heartless when he's around. Interesting fact. So anyway, Sora realizes after talking to Yen Sid that because he sealed the doorway between the Realm of Light and the Dark Realm with Riku, they closed the doorway to Kingdom Hearts. All the worlds have been separated when they were put back together. So all the worlds are safe. The keyholes to the heart of all the worlds are locked, so the Heartless can't get to them. So the worlds are protected. There's still Heartless there. Again, there's going to be darkness in any heart, and that's something that the Heartless can feed off of. But as Yuffie put it in Hollow Bastion, it's just the local variety. Like, you won't see Heartless that aren't supposed to be there unless there's a resurgence of darkness in that area. And with, minimal Organization and Disney Cabal member influences, the Heartless aren't really going to be able to get a foothold in any of these worlds. So Sora has to go around, not to the worlds now, and pretty much at the beginning of the game, he tells everybody what his goal is. Donald and Goofy want to meet back up with King Mickey so they can continue their jobs. Donald is the court magician of the Disney castle, and Goofy is the captain of the guard. And their goal is to protect the king and protect the castle and their interests. Sora, on the other hand, just wants to be reunited with his friends, and he knows Riku was stuck in the Dark Realm. But upon seeing King Mickey, he knows, well, Riku can't be in the Dark Realm anymore because you're not in there, so you both got out. But Mickey won't tell him why or how. And the reason is because Riku made Mickey promise him that he wouldn't tell Sora what happened, because Riku gave in to the power of darkness, and his form forever changed into that of Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and he didn't want to face his friends like that. But Sora doesn't know any of this and is determined to be reunited with his friends. So he's going to all of these worlds and trying to locate his lost friend. So in the first game, it was, finding Kairi and Riku, and, trying to save all the worlds because Heartless were consuming them. In this game, it's not so much about saving the worlds, because there's Heartless there, and Sora will deal with them in any great threats that arise. But he's really just looking for Riku and, seeing how all of his old friends are doing. So as he goes from world to world, he finds an object that is key to that world. It has a great connection to the heart of the world, and it allows him to open up the pathway between, the lanes between, from one world to another. So he is able to go to different worlds, and he shows up in Mulan's world first, and there he meets Mushu. And again, we know Mushu's world, the Land of Dragons, was destroyed because Mushu was a summon, and the fairy godmother told us in the first game, all of the summons were created, are strong hearts that manifest in the form of a crystal. From creatures and beings that had lost their worlds, and Mushu is one of those people. In the next world we go to, it's Beast's Castle. Beast, we know, was unique because he was able to travel between dimensions to Hollow Bastion in the first game, a world that was falling apart while he was trying to find Belle. And he was able to do that just through his strength of will. And everybody's like, he's a really powerful dude. He's going to make a really powerful Heartless if he falls. In this game, we see him in his castle. And, we have to help him, fight that darkness. Olympus Coliseum is much more of the same. We get a little bit more of a view of the underworld. Hades is still around, one of the few Disney villains that was not taken care of, because you can't really kill the Lord of Darkness. And unlike before, Hades is kind of just doing his own thing. He's not really working with Maleficent. Maleficent has Pete as her right-hand man now, and she's kind of sending him to take care of things, but she never actually steps in directly to fight with Sora, Donald, and Goofy. And, which is weird because we saw her, she was dead at the end of the first game. She was able to resurrect because people remembered her. And that's a theme that is very commonplace in Kingdom Hearts. If people remember you, you're never truly gone because you have been etched into their heart. And while nobody really loves Maleficent, the fear she instills in people is a very similar reaction to that. Whereas Sora remembers people he's never met or met as Roxas because of that connection in the heart, and that's a very powerful thing. So Sora keeps going to other worlds. He goes to Disney Castle, and he has to go into the past, and it actually tells the backstory of Pete and how, he wasn't a bad dude, and honestly, he just made poor decisions. And we don't actually know how he went from, just the steamboat captain to a villain, but we find a little bit more about that in Birth by Sleep. So anyway, Sora keeps going to all the different towns. He goes to, or worlds. He goes to Port Royal, the Pirates of the Caribbean world. And he finds out that there is a curse there, which the darkness can take hold in people. And, because of the Aztec Gold Curse, they are immortal pirates, but they can still be destroyed by the power of the Keyblade. He goes to Halloween Town, revisiting Jack Skellington, where Maleficent resurrects Oogie Boogie, and you have to deal with him a second time. We go to Agrabah, where Aladdin is trying to keep Abu out of trouble, and he is constantly having doubts about himself, and giving into solitude, and Jasmine's really worried about him. And we go to the Pride Lands, where Simba's there, and Scar is king, and we have to convince him to take over and become the king that he wants to be. And all these are emotional turmoil that all of these characters are going in. And Sora, Donald, and Goofy are doing what they're not supposed to do. They're meddling in these worlds. And Sora's doing this because he's literally following his heart. And because of his actions, he's making connections from his heart to everybody he touches. And that is literally the carrying force that, keeps him going through each of these things. We end up at Hollow Bastion, and there's been a resurgence of darkness there because of Maleficent. She's literally marching an army of Heartless onto the castle walls. We have to, go into the town computer. We meet Tron and Space Paranoids to reprogram the castle defenses, and we're trying to unlock information about the Heartless, because we find out that the Ansem we fought in Kingdom Hearts 1 is not the actual Ansem. It is his apprentice, Xehanort. And Ansem the Wise was a wise ruler who did research on Heartless and then decided to stop because he realized the inherent dangers. So as we go into the computer, we try to dig up this data, and we have, Space Paranoid's dilemma. Outside the castle, we, start the Thousand Heartless fight, and we do a good job at holding them at bay, but eventually we start losing. And the only reason we are able to get out of there is because Maleficent actually jumps in and takes over and starts fighting alongside us, and forces us into our gummy ship, because she wasn't in control of the Heartless at that point. They weren't working for her. The organization members that had shown up there were controlling them, and she wasn't having any of that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. After this second roundabout in Hollow Bastion, we realized that the organization is starting to take a more major role in on a lot of the worlds. So back in the Land of Dragons, there's organization presence there. Riku is warning everybody. Again, not telling us directly, but telling, the people of the Land of Dragons that, you got to watch out for this organization. These people in the black cloaks, as seen right there. And that's Riku, but Zigbar was there, and he awakened an ancient dragon, which we had to defeat. In the Beast's castle, Zaldin, the spear wielder, is trying to force the Beast to, choose what he cares about the most. So he takes Belle and he takes the Rose, saying that, he said, "I'll leave you a parting gift, Beast. Which one do you want me to leave you with?" And we have to fight him, and that's when we take down Zaldin. But he's trying to make a powerful Heartless in the Beast. And the reason why the organization, it turns out, is collecting these Heartless is because if they make very powerful Heartless and then destroy them, or use them to their own ends, or send them against Sora and the Keyblade wielders, they will eventually go back to Kingdom Hearts. And when Kingdom Hearts becomes fully saturated with hearts, it will manifest, and then they will be able to finally exist by regaining hearts of their own. Ultimately, that's not a bad goal. That's actually kind of a noble thing. You're told that, you are beings that do not exist, that you should not exist, and your crime is existing. And the only thing you want to do is gain a heart so you can be a person and feel emotion. I mean, I kind of got to agree with them on that front. That's not a bad goal to have. Following up in Olympus Coliseum, we met a friend, Oron, who was brought back to life by Hades to kill Hercules, as well as to deal with Sora. Oran was having none of it because he does live by a code. But on our second trip there, it turns out that he's being brainwashed effectively by Hades. He put his heart into a little voodoo doll statue and wasn't having any of it. Sora was able to get Oran's heart back, and along with Hercules, Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Oran were able to defeat Hades. And again, just sends him back to the underworld. He doesn't actually go away. Back on the other side of the map, we've got Port Royal, where Luxor, the gambler, was able to grab the Aztec gold, and he effectively plays a shell game with us. He gives the coins to a bunch of Heartless, and one of the major Heartless that he summons is a Grim Reaper, who is immortal as long as there is some greed around, like not all the Aztec gold has been returned to the chest. And we realize, that the organization is willing to use kind of any underhanded tactics they are, and the tactics vary from individual to individual. Zaldin was willing to go with a very direct approach. Luxor was wanted to play with us a little bit. Whenever we meet Zigbar, he's just kind of mocking us and staying at a distance. The only member we really didn't have any time to talk to at a great length is Xemnas, who's the leader. Anyway, we end up back in Halloween Town. Doctor's experiment goes wild, not much to report there. Agrabah, Jafar gets out of his lamp, and we have the events of Return of Jafar. And we officially destroy him for good, so he's not coming back. And then in the Pride Lands, Simba is seeing a ghost of Scar constantly haunting him and mocking him, saying that, he's not going to be a good king. So we, try to up his spirits and make him face these inner demons. And turns out it's just, a giant Heartless that is, trying to manipulate his emotions, and very close to turning him into a Heartless as well. Very quickly, I will touch on 100 Acre Wood. The book had torn pages, and Pooh could not remember Sora, but as we repaired the book, he was able to. Not much more to say there. And in Atlantica, somehow, despite us having killed Ursula in the first game, Ursula resurrected, and through the power of music, we are able to defeat her and solve all of Ariel's problems. I can't believe I actually said that out loud. But in any case, this game pretty much just says, Sora is literally going to Worlds, and despite his goal ultimately being find Riku, his secondary goal is help my friends. And the list of friends that Sora has is constantly growing. So every world now, he has touched not one person's heart, not just the person who's, in the party, but everybody in that world who he has not actively fought against. So, example, in Olympus, he's not only connected to Oron, he's also connected to Hercules, he's connected to Phil, he's connected to Meg, to Pegasus. In Mulan's world, he's connected to, the Emperor, Shang, Mulan, the Three Stooges, Chienpo, Lin, and Yao. Beast's castle, all of Beast's servants, Beast, Belle, he's connected to them. He's connected to, Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann. He's connected to Aladdin, Jasmine, Iago, the Carpet, Genie. He's connected to Ariel. He's connected to Tron now in the computer. He's connected to Simba and his entire pride. He's connected to Jack Skellington, Sally, Dr. Finkelstein, the mayor. To a lesser extent, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. But all these people have been etched in on Sora's heart. And because of that, it makes him that much stronger. We end up going back to Twilight Town. And again, Twilight Town, even though they just met Sora for a moment, Hayner Pensalette feel a kinship with him. And this is because in the alternate Twilight Town, which is overlapping, the digital one that Diz created, that Ansem the Wise, this guy, created, he made Hayner Pensalette friends with Roxas. And that connection that they made with Roxas is written on Sora's heart because Roxas is part of Sora. So even though they didn't spend a lot of time together, they have that connection. So if Kingdom Hearts 2 is saying something, it's that, Sora's heart is a very powerful thing, and his connection will, transcend time and space, and he will always follow his heart, and he will do what needs to be done. And ultimately, when he ends up in the world that never was, he meets people that he was hoping to see for the longest time. He fights against Roxas, and the two become one. And that's when he gains his ultimate power. As he heads into the castle, he sees Riku and Kairi. He realizes that the person who's been helping him this entire time has been Riku in the form of Ansem the Seeker. And the reunion is not bitter at all. It's, very heartwarming, despite the fact that Riku doesn't look like Riku. And Riku is very torn. He didn't want to, remain like this forever. Meanwhile, at the top of the tower, King Mickey and Ansem the Wise are working with this instrument to try to codify Kingdom Hearts, which will meddle in the affair of the organization. They don't want the organization to get the power of the hearts. And again, most of them just wanted to exist. Like, Xemnas had more goals than that, but the majority of them just wanted to become human again. I mean, that's no more evil than anything that happened in Beauty and the Beast. So, they had managed to codify the data. It destroys all the hearts that had been, compiled in Kingdom Hearts thus far, and it shatters it. The blast breaks the illusion, so Riku reverts back to his normal self, and the only organization member that's left at that point is Xemnas. And we go and we fight Xemnas, and he ceases to be. But Riku and Sora are stuck in the dark dimension at the end of this. And as they don't give up, that's important. Sora's a perpetual optimist. He will never give up, at least not yet in this series. But they see a door to light open, and it's Kairi. And the reason why that happens is, again, because Sora has that innate connection to all of his friends. And Kairi is one of the most powerful beings in the world because she's a princess of heart. So she has that ability to open the doorways. At least in the first game, as explained, you needed all 7 of the Princesses of Heart to do that, or to keep it at bay. But at this point, we assume that Kairi has to be the most powerful of them because she now has her own Keyblade. And the reason for that, we will go into in a little bit in Birth by Sleep. But the end of the game happens, and Sora and Riku return to Destiny Islands, and pretty much everything is happy. There's nothing really left to do. The Heartless, for the most part, have been vanquished. It's just the local garden variety. The worlds are safe, and they are still separate, but the lanes between have been opened so they can revisit worlds. And you now have 3 Keyblade wielders in Destiny Island. And everybody pretty much gets their happy ending. The Disney crew goes back to Disney Castle, and each world, from Mulan's world to Olympus Coliseum to the Beast's Castle, they all have their happy ending, and it is literally the end game. The Beast turns back into a prince. Ariel gets married to her prince. Simba is king of his pride and has a child. Pretty much every romantic interest gets together with that romantic interest. And that pretty much means that we have resolved the plots of those worlds, which is why in Kingdom Hearts 3 I'm looking forward to it, because we have confirmed we're returning to Olympus, we're returning to Port Royal, Pirates of the Caribbean, and well, those are the 2 confirmed ones. And of course we're heading back to 100 Acre Woods, because it wouldn't be a Kingdom Hearts game without it. Now, I was mentioning before the power of the Keyblade. Originally in the first game, we thought it was a very unique thing that only Sora had. But then, Riku was also able to wield it in Kingdom Hearts 1. And in this game, a lot of the end cutscenes have Mickey, Sora, and Riku working in tandem with their 3 Keyblades to open doors. And Riku even hands Kairi a Keyblade. So you have to think about yourself, well, it's clearly not just a unique thing to Sora. Other people have it. But how many other people have it? And that's where we enter Birth by Sleep. So right here, we just have the image of Birth by Sleep. We've got Terra over here, the big strong dude. We have Ventus, the dude who looks like he's kind of sleeping, and Aqua, who my head is currently blocking, there we go, who looks a little perplexed and ready for battle. And the 3 of them are all Keyblade wielders. And unlike in the other games where you choose, do you want to use the sword, the shield, or the staff as your starting thing, so magic, defense, or strength, these 3 are your options. Terra is a pillar of strength. Ventus is very fluid in his movements, very defensive, always ready to, help others. Sure, we'll use autosave, whatever. And Aqua is literally the strongest spellcaster we have met thus far in the games. Do I not have any data on this? That would be really strange. I've beaten this game many times. So yeah, this game opens up and we're literally just introduced to these 3 characters. Ventus is Sora's age. She's a kid. He was dropped off a couple of years ago in the land of departure. Oh, we get our cutscene here. I will minimize my giant head so we can see this. So we see the three of them connecting, and they are the three images we saw in the armor in that last cutscene. And this bald guy is Master Xehanort. He is one of the Keyblade Masters at the beginning of the game. There's two of them. There's Master Xehanort, and then there is Master Eriquis. The beginning of the game starts, after they, all say, we're going to be together forever, with Terra and Aqua having to fight in the Mark of Mastery exam. I'm not going to be able to keep up with this video. But Aqua and Terra have to fight each other to prove their worth in the Mark of Mastery, and prove that they can become Keyblade Masters. That's what the Mark of Mastery is. And their master, Master Eriquis, who strictly uses the power of light, welcomed another Keyblade Master to witness this. It's a very important thing when you see the Keyblade wielder attain the rank of Master. They gain new knowledge, new insight, and, are entrusted with certain secrets of the world. And after that exam, while they're fighting, Master Xehanort uses a little bit of darkness. And he manipulates the orbs in the chamber, and they're darkened. And as Aqua and Terra are fighting him, Ventus jumps in to help out. And hoping to protect his, friends, Terra taps into the power of darkness. And Eriquis sees this, and it prevents him from attaining the rank of Master. So Aqua becomes a Master and is tasked with watching over, all the worlds as well as her two cohorts. Terra is said he would be given a second chance, because there are things that are happening in the world. As Xehanort leaves after the Mark of Mastery, Eriquis gets a message from none other than Yen Sid, who is specifically, according to Eriquis, a Keyblade Master no more. And but he still keeps tabs on the world, and he said there are new beings that are showing up in all worlds. And again, the trick here is Heartless have not been introduced yet. We are only dealing with these things called unversed, and these are emotions that have manifested. So happiness, sadness, anger. And they're literally just created from beings who have a heightened amount of emotion. Right here, that's Sora and Riku. I'm actually going to see if I can actually get into the timeline. I should be able to. I think Trinity Archives? Huh. Okay. Got a lot of hours logged into this game. Wow. Trophies. Proof that you've killed that many unversed. Okay, so what we're actually doing in here, secret reports, we got a ton of these. So these are all Xehanort's reports and Xehanort's letters, but what we actually want to do here is take a look at the timeline. Alright, so Terra is told by Master Eriquis that if he goes to these worlds and he helps, defeat the unversed and bring balance to them, it's like a second chance for him to attain the rank of mastery. And Eriquis gives him that hope, and he goes off. Meanwhile, here, I'm going to have to constantly bounce up and down here. Ventus is sitting still in the land of departure, and he runs into this being called Vanitas. And it's later revealed that Vanitas is the dark half of Ventus's heart. It's revealed also that Ventus was dropped off at the land of departure a few years earlier, and he had complete amnesia. He couldn't remember anything. He could barely speak. Very similar situation to what Roxas had in 350 and over 2 days, where he just couldn't remember a thing and was barely able to speak. He was pretty much like a zombie. And the reason for that is Xehanort has been trying to create the Keyblade. XI Greek letter, the Keyblade, the ultimate Keyblade. And it looks really cool. It's two Keyblades crossed and then an actual sword blade coming out of the middle. Really powerful, and it can apparently unlock the doorway to anywhere, including Kingdom Hearts, which you normally need the 7 Princesses of Heart to do. But he wants this ultimate power, and he realized that Ventus might have been a way to do it. The problem was Ventus was too weak. He wasn't willing to give in to the power of darkness and find both the power of light and the power of darkness. So Xehanort literally splits him in two. What is left over, the shell, is Ventus, and he's broken and fractured, and he gives him to Eriquis because he can still summon a Keyblade. and he was just going to leave him on Destiny Island, wrapped in a blanket, literally. But because he could still summon a Keyblade, he realized he could still use him, so he left him with Eraqus to train in the ways of light. And Xehanort, who has become a large master of evil, who differed on Eraqus on many things, especially in his thoughts on the darkness, decided to raise the other half, which is Vanitas. And he's exactly like Ventus, it's just he is a power of darkness. So Ventus and Vanitas meet in the Land of Departure, and Vanitas taunts Ventus, and he's wearing a mask, so Ventus doesn't know what his face looks like. And he's like, your friend, Terra, is going to be leaving you behind. You're never going to be able to, see him anymore. And Ventus literally runs out trying to talk to Terra as Terra activates his armor and his glider and sails off through the lanes between, which was opened up by Master Eraqus. He opened up all the lanes between. Because he's a Keyblade master and he has that power. So he opens up all the lanes between, and Terra goes off to the first world. Ventus is like, well, I need to, head off and catch up to him because I need to talk to him. After the two of them leave, Master Eraqus is like, Aqua, you need to run after them. You need to bring Ventus back, and you keep an eye on Terra as you do it. So all three of them have different motives. Terra is trying to prove himself, and as he goes along his path, he's slowly meeting Master Xehanort more and more, and falling into darkness, sometimes willingly, sometimes unwillingly. Ventus's whole goal is just he wants to talk to Terra, who's arguably his best friend, and Aqua's goal is she just wants to see the two of them are safe. And if you look at the timeline here, I love the timeline, actually. So the first person that place Terra goes is the Enchanted Dominion, which is Sleeping Beauty's land. And Terra literally uses his Keyblade. He's tricked by Maleficent into stealing away Aurora's heart. He just pulls it out of her body, and that's the start of his fall into darkness because he robbed somebody of their light, of their heart. He then ends up in the Dwarven Woodlands, where the evil queen talks to him, and if you know the story of Snow White, Terra is the huntsman who is tasked with going and stealing Snow White's heart. Cut it out and put it in this box. He doesn't do it and tells her to run off in the woods, but still, the fact that he could have done it was there. As soon as Terra leaves there, Ventus is also, they overlap there, but instead of, being anywhere near Snow White, Ventus ends up in the dwarves' mine, where he's trying to get the dwarves and just talk to them and figure out more about the Unversed, and he eventually sends them back to their home where they will inevitably meet Snow White. Then after that, Ventus is the first one into the Castle of Dreams, Cinderella's world, where he meets Jacques and is trying to find stuff and put together a dress for Cinderella. Then we head up to Terra, who shows up there, and he literally escorts Cinderella from her home with Lady Tremaine all the way to the castle, where she dances the night away. And finally, Aqua catches up, because she was looking for them and couldn't find them. And Aqua ends up in the Castle of Dreams first, and she literally sees Terra down in the balcony, so she's keeping an eye on him, and she's just like, alright, don't worry, I'll take over from here, because she sticks with the prince and is trying to find where this mystery girl was. And as she's there, she's just like, Terra, where are you? He's just like, you got this from here on out. So he leaves. And she still has no idea where Ventus is, but Terra seemed to be doing okay in this world. Then she ends up in the Dwarven Woodlands, and, Cinderella is asleep because she ate the poisoned apple. And Aqua tries to figure out, what to do with that. And then we head up to the Enchanted Dominion, and it doesn't show it in this cutscene. Yeah, it doesn't show it here, but the three of them end up in the Enchanted Dominion in one specific cutscene in a circle at about the same time. Like, Terra is here for this, and Ventus just says, Terra faces off against Aqua saying, you were sent to spy on me, and Ventus is just like, can't we all just go home? And Terra's like, no, I still, have to figure out more about myself. And, it gets really, heated. Terra goes off and is an edgelord. Aqua then tries to take Ventus back home, and Ventus is just like, Aqua, you really are terrible spying on us like that. And Aqua doesn't really ever apply, and she ends up staying in the Enchanted Dominion and helping Prince Philip escape from Maleficent's dungeon, and then the two of them head off and wake up Sleeping Beauty. From there, Terra heads to the Mysterious Tower, it looks like is his next stop, and it's more of just him talking to Yen Sid and figuring out exactly what's going on, because he doesn't really have direction, and like he's given a slight warning about Master Xehanort, which he doesn't really heed, because immediately after that he goes and talks to Master Xehanort in the Badlands. And, Master Xehanort's like, oh, you can get to this place called, Radiant Garden, where there's a lot more Heartless. You just need to, access your full power by going into the darkness. And he does. He starts, like, using the power of darkness more, and he thinks it'll make him stronger than Aqua. And, Xehanort claims that he is stronger than Eriquis because he's a fool who won't use both the power of light and the power of darkness. We also see that Ventus also ends up in the Badlands, and again, mocked by Vanitas, because, he's constantly telling him, no wonder Terra left you behind, you're not worth the trouble kind of thing. And Ventus is resolved to find Terra. And then we have a Radiant Garden, where the three of them actually fight in conjunction together at one point, which is why there's that overlap in the center. But in their time here, let's see, Terra ends up fighting Brog, who becomes Xigbar. In fact, the reason why Xigbar had that scar on his face and the eye patch is because of Terra giving into the darkness and, gouging that out with the Keyblade attack. And Brog was, faking that he had kidnapped Master Xehanort and needed help. And Terra was having none of that. Ventus's thing here, yeah. He ended up following Mickey. King Mickey is also floating around during all these story points, and he mostly meets up with Aqua and Ventus, but he has this star fragment that he took from Master Yen Sid. The star fragment and the Keyblade, he has his Star Seeker, which is Yen Sid's old Keyblade. And the star fragment that he has teleports him to different worlds, but at random. He can't control what world he ends up in, and he can't control when it triggers. So Alessius and Dylan, that's Alessius and Zalden are the two guards, and Ventus just wants to go in there trying to help. He runs into Scrooge. I couldn't actually remember what ends up happening here. Oh, that's right. He also ends up meeting, he sees the Enzo. He rescues the Enzo from the Unversed, who is, again, another one of the nobodies. The boy's guardian, Evan, who is Vexen. And I believe he also ends up getting into a fight with Lee and Issa, who is, Lee and Issa, who is Axel and Syax. So Ventus pretty much meets all the members of Organization 13. Aqua, on the other hand, ends up getting into a fight with a bunch of Heartless towards the end of this. Unversed, not Heartless. Outside of the castle gates, that the two guards, again, Dylan and Alexis, I will not be able to pronounce that name, and they're guarding the princess, who is Kairi. And during that fight, Kairi accidentally reaches out and touches Aqua's Keyblade, and that is why Kairi has the ability to wield a Keyblade, because it's not quite a passing down ceremony, which Terra will eventually do, but the act of a Keyblade wielder handing over their Keyblade and allowing that person to, not only to make a connection with the Keyblade is what makes more Keyblade wielders. It's supposed to be, it's an inherited power, a power granted to somebody who is thought to be worthy. And Kairi seemed worthy in Aqua's eyes, and even though she didn't officially hand over her Keyblade, the fact that Kairi was able to touch it for a second and hold on to it gave her the ability to wield a Keyblade, and that's why Kairi has a Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 2, and will continue to have a Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 3. Now we have the jump to Disney Town, where all three of our heroes, starting with Ventus, then Terra, then Aqua, all go and compete in the Disney Festival of Lights. Ventus is doing a mini game where you shoot ice cream cones at Huey, Dewey, and Louie, trying to make the highest scoops. Terra is in a racing event, and Aqua is in a game called Fruit Ball. And meanwhile, while they're here, they're meeting all the Disney cast, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Horace, Cluck, Minnie, Daisy, but mostly Captain Dark, who during the racing days, and Captain Justice during the other, who is Pete disguised as a hero because he wants to win the prize for being the most helpful person in town. And, it's greedy. He wants a prize that he hasn't really earned, but at the same time, he's still doing good for that fact. And at the end of it, after you beat 3 of these missions, the third person you beat Disneytown with ends up getting the trophy. And it said that it was a 3-way tie between Terra, Aqua, and Ventus. But since 2 of them aren't here, we're just going to give the trophy to the third one who's present. So it's whoever is the third one that you beat. Pete gets steamed about this. He's like, well, wait a minute, didn't I get any? And he's like, well, yes, Pete, you got some votes, but a lot of people realized your heart wasn't into it when you were trying to help people. So you should work on that. And Pete grumbles and, is really upset about it, and he ends up getting banished as a result because he was faking his kindness. And while he is banished and in that darkness, Maleficent finds him, and that's why he's her number 2 throughout Kingdom Hearts 2, because he felt rejected by his home world, his hometown, so he turned to darkness where he was accepted. All he wanted was recognition, so Pete's not really a villain's villain. He's in it for the self-glory, which a lot of heroes and a lot of villains have that trait, and Pete just didn't care how he got it. Next up is the Olympus area. And in all 3 of these, we end up fighting Heartless, and we meet Zack, who is the person who trained Cloud, if you follow Final Fantasy. Not much else going on there. In the next areas, the Deep Space, we meet Stitch, and if you know the story of Lilo and Stitch, Captain Gantu is trying to keep him captured, and you end up making a bond with Stitch over the course of this world. And lastly, it's Neverland. And it starts off with Ventus, kind of becomes one of the Lost Boys. Terra, I believe. Terra starts to work with Hook as kind of like hired muscle. And then Aqua, after knowing what's happened here, goes and, helps Peter Pan out and pretty much does away with Hook. Well, until the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 happen. Again, most of these middle worlds, not too much matters. The only reason I went into detail about the Castle of Dreams, the Dwarven Woodlands, and the Enchanted Dominion is because Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella are 3 of the Princesses of Heart. We hadn't seen their worlds up until now. So how Terra, Aqua, and Ventus played out in these worlds was very relevant. The rest of this is more just Kingdom Hearts stuff. They went to these Disney worlds and they did their thing. This culminates ultimately in Mysterious Towers, always Yensid giving an info dump. And then they end up at Destiny Islands, where Terra sees the strength of the friendship between between Riku and Sora. And he's like, you always want the power to protect your friend? He's asking this to Riku, and Riku says yes. And he performs the ceremony of handing the Keyblade off to Riku. And then, Riku's able to hold on to it for a few seconds, and then it reappears in Terra's hand. And he says, one day you'll be able to manifest this blade by yourself, and when you do, you'll always be able to protect your friends. Meanwhile, down here, Ventus doesn't get there for a while. Destiny Islands, Aqua also sees Riku and Sora, doesn't do any ceremony, but recognizes that Riku had the power of the Keyblade passed on to him by someone, and she assumes it was Terra. We head back up here to the Badlands, where once again, Xemnas and Master Xehanort are filling Ventus and Terra's heads with nonsense. Ventus is like, you and me are meant to be one. We will form the ultimate weapon, and Terra will never accept you, and he pretty much runs back home to the land of departure. Meanwhile, in the Badlands, Xehanort is telling Terra just like, oh no, you need to head back to, the land of departure. Eraqus is planning to do something terrible, and lo and behold, in the land of departure, Eriquis is about to kill Ventus because he finds out about Xehanort's plan to create the Keyblade, and he says that cannot stand. And again, Eriquis is, straight as an arrow. He only believes in the power of light. He doesn't think anybody should ever use the power of darkness for any reason. Fortunately, Terra shows up and is able to stop Eriquis from, killing him, and then he grabs Ventus and tosses him off-world, effectively, and then he fights Master Eriquis, and he kills him. And Eriquis then apologizes that, he clearly wasn't the master he should have been, trying to take his own student's life. And that's when Terra pretty much realizes, okay, yeah, I shouldn't be giving into the darkness. Because during this fight, it's similar to Antiform with Sora. The limit gauges you build up in this game allow you to access new forms, and one of Terra's third tier limits is a dark form. And you whenever you would be able to drive into your first form, instead you automatically jump to that final one, but it's always the dark form. And that's how you fight Master Eriquis, because he's a being of light and you're fighting him strictly with darkness. And Terra realizes from this fight that, I can't give into the darkness. I'll use the power of darkness, but I won't let it snuff out my light. Meanwhile, after he tossed Ventus away, Ventus ends up in Destiny Islands, and that's where he meets Sora. And nothing really happens there, but he just realizes that Sora has a good heart. Back at the Mysterious Tower, Aqua is pretty much told that, her master has died, and that they all need to end up in the Keyblade graveyard, where the Crossroads of Destiny have taken them all. And it's there where Terra will ultimately face off against Master Xehanort, and it's a struggle for his body and for his heart. And ultimately, Xehanort wins. Xehanort his body disappears, and he gains control of Terra's body, except his hair goes stark white, and he gets yellow eyes. And he has succeeded, and one of the things that happens is Terra says, look, there's still light in my heart, so you can't take over my heart, even if you have control over my body. And that's an internal monologue thing. Meanwhile, Terra's armor, which he put on to protect himself during that last fight, it reassembles himself, and it is the last of his will, which is part of his heart. Heart and will are kind of interconnected here. And it tries to fight this new, younger Xehanort in his body to regain control, hoping to, get rid of him to stop the threat that he is to his two friends, who he's just been trying to protect this entire time. And he ultimately fails, and that is why at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, we see the Lingering Will sitting at the Crossroads of Destiny. Keyblade, crouched down, head lowered, cape billowing in the wind. He tried and failed to defeat Xehanort, and could not do it. Meanwhile, Ventus has been fighting a couple of Xehanort's lackeys, notably Brog and Vanitas, and it ends up with Vanitas and Sora and Ventus. Confusion, sorry. Ultimately fighting and ending up inside of Ventus's heart, where they have the final showdown. And Vanitas keeps saying, Ven, why are you, resisting me? Just become one with me again, and we will form the Keyblade and become the ultimate weapon. And he doesn't want to be used as a weapon, so he fights back. And the fact that he is able to beat Vanitas is he beats Vanitas, and ultimately it shatters his heart, and that's when he goes comatose. And also, while here, Aqua's fighting alongside King Mickey. Again, they take out Brog first, who is annoying, but then they have to fight Vanitas, but it's not really Vanitas. It is Ventus and Vanitas' body put together, because they remerged, and Vanitas has half of the Keyblade, the dark half of it, which he's using against them. And, he's blasting them like crazy. Mickey ends up going unconscious like a punk. And Aqua ends up managing to, defeat him and hopefully got back Ventus. But it didn't work. Ventus is comatose, and she's not sure why. So she takes him back to the Mysterious Tower and finds out that Terra also disappeared during that fight. And she wants to figure out where he went. And before I go any further, folks, I am just going to take a quick break. I need some water because my mouth is getting a little dry. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, so with that all being said, this game ends. Apologies. Water is necessary for life. Anyway, with that all being said, the game ends with Aqua taking Ventus back to the mysterious tower and saying, I need to figure out where Terra went. And Yensid pretty much points her back to Radiant Garden. And she's like, okay, Mickey is still unconscious, and, you know, he grew very fond of Ventus and Aqua, and even Terra to some extent, even though he had very limited contact with him. But he's knocked out cold, and they're not sure when he's going to get revived. Donald and Goofy are watching over him in Yensid's tower, so Aqua takes Ventus's comatose body, who does not have a heart, very specifically, and she puts it in the only safe place she can think of, and that is she returns to the Land of Departure. And the Land of Departure has pretty much been torn apart, not only from the battle between Terra and Master Eraqus, but also because Xehanort had reappeared there and pretty much left it in ruins. So Aqua uses her vast amount of power, magical power, as well as the fact that she's a Keyblade Master, and she locks the castle. She takes Ventus into the Room of Awakening. And if you remember from Kingdom Hearts 2, the cutscene, there is a Room of Awakening and I forget what the other room is called, but that Xemnas constantly went and visited, and he referred to the armor that was down there as an old friend. And he said there's a pair of it in Castle Oblivion, and as she puts Ventus in this chamber, in Eraqus's throne, she makes a keyhole and locks the castle, and it becomes Castle Oblivion, which is the perfect resting place for Ventus, so no one except for Aqua can enter it and get to him and make him into a weapon, and where he will be protected until she can return it and restore him. Because the further you go into Castle Oblivion, the more you remember it, and we learned that from Chain of Memories. With that done, Aqua heads over to Radiant Garden, where she ends up seeing Terra's body, Terra Xehanort. And she knows it's not him, and she demands that Xehanort give Terra back his body, and Xehanort refuses, and they end up fighting. And over the course of that fight, two things happen. Aqua manages to lock Xehanort's memories, so he no longer remembers that he's a Keyblade wielder. That's why he uses the ethereal blades. He no longer knows about his Keyblade. He no longer knows about anything, about his memories. He just has little shadows of these things. And that was the last of Aqua's power. And Xehanort manages to shatter Aqua's armor, and she ends up getting flung into the realm of darkness. And the last cutscene in Radiant Garden is, the two guards dragging Xehanort into the castle, and Ansem the one's like, "Who's this?" And the only thing he can remember is that his name is Xehanort, and Ansem the Wise takes him as his apprentice, and that's where Kingdom Hearts 2 picks up. He had dark intentions, he had grand schemes, he knew about all this kind of stuff, but then he had amnesia, and all of his memories were locked away. And in that same part of his heart where his memories were locked away, Terra's there as the final flickering light, saying, "Look, you can't extinguish this one part of me. I'm always going to be here, and you're trapped in here with me just as well." And that Xehanort's just like, "I'll be able to get out sooner or later. And when I do, well, that's where 3 is hopefully going to pick up." And the thing about the armor is, Master Eraqus even told them, the armor is going to protect the 3 of them from the darkness while traveling in the lanes between, because the lane betweens are the realm of the Heartless. That's where we're going to see the most of them. And Aqua ends up getting tossed into the realm of darkness. And in the final episode, you need to... the secret episode, sorry. The final episode is Radiant Garden. The secret episode is you see Aqua fighting purebred Heartless in the realm of darkness. And it's, shadows, neo shadows, dark balls, and then eventually the dark thorn and dark sides. And she has the Keyblade of Eraqus. That is the strongest Keyblade in this game, and it's her master's blade. Her Keyblade is lost. It's sitting with her armor back in Radiant Garden. And as she's about to give up, 2 Keyblades fly around in a spiral and take down 2 dark sides. And it's the Keyblade that Terra and Ventus were wielding, and it gives her hope to keep moving forward. Now, the biggest thing here is you need to remember where all three of these characters ended up. Terra ended up as the host body for Master Xehanort and ended up with amnesia. So he is the physical form of Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and Xemnas, the leader of organization, with the mind of a Keyblade Master who has fallen to light, Master Xehanort. That's who he is now. Aqua has now been trapped in the realm of darkness as of Kingdom Hearts 2 for 11 years. She was in there from the end of this game, and this game is 10 years prior to Kingdom Hearts 1. And we know that because in cutscenes of Kingdom Hearts 1, they said Kairi showed up around their island in town 9 years ago, and Kairi's still not on the island, so it's 10 years prior to Kingdom Hearts 1. And that's when everything started to go south. Ventus, on the other hand, his heart is lost and his body is sealed away in Castle Oblivion. However, Ventus met that young boy on Destiny Islands right before his final battle at the Crossroads of Destiny, who had a pure heart. And in a cutscene, we see this young boy accepting Ventus's heart into his own, saying, "I'm broken." Like, it's okay if you're broken. You can stay with me and wait until you heal. And then when you're finally ready to, you can leave. So that right there is why Ventus, you might have noticed Ventus looks exactly like Roxas. Every nobody we have seen in these games thus far has looked exactly like their original form, whereas the Heartless, normally it takes on a Heartless appearance. Except for Sora and Kairi. Because Naminé looks like Kairi but has a different hair color, and that's because she's a nobody created when Kairi's heart left Sora, not from when it left Kairi. Roxas, there were already hearts inside of Sora when he became a Heartless, and they all escaped. And those hearts were Kairi's heart, his heart, Ventus's heart, and the hearts of everybody that Sora had connected, because that's Sora's power. It's that he connects hearts together. And really, this game tests a lot about emotions and memories, because there's a lot of memory play that goes on, and emotions are key here. We find out that the source of all this unrest in the world, the source of the Unversed, is none other than Vanitas. And as the Unversed are defeated, they go back into him, and he feels the emotions they felt upon dying, and then he can create more Unversed. And if you think about that, that is a power that Ventus must have had if Ventus had given into the darkness. Because they are coming from him, and Ventus and Vanitas are two halves of the same coins. But now if you take out the Vanitas half of that and you just leave Ventus, Ventus is only and he's a fractured heart, and his heart is inside of Sora's heart. So that means Sora has the ability to connect people across different worlds through their emotions, and those emotions are written on his heart in the form of memories. And that is his strength. He follows his heart. He always stays positive. And when he does get negative, that's when things go bad. And I won't get into Dream Drop Distance in this review, but that does happen to Sora at the end of Dream Drop Distance. And it is a testament like how bad things can actually get if Sora starts getting down in the dumps. But that is Chain of Memories. And by the way, at the end of all this, King Mickey is sitting back. He finally woke up and he realized that if he had been able to stay awake during that battle and, help out Aqua, maybe he wouldn't have lost all of his friends. Maybe they wouldn't be, gone. And he blames himself for that. He blames himself for, Ansem the Wise, not figuring out his research. And, he should have been able to see the organization forming, because it was literally Ansem's, the 6 people closest to him, and then it started to spread out. From that point, it then became, 2 young punks in town, Axel and Syax. Then went a little bit further, and they kept growing the organization from there. And it was only because they kept doing experiments on the heart, and that's what created the Heartless. So Mickey has a lot of blame in what's been going on here. But at the same time, all of his actions have been trying to rectify those mistakes. The only thing he hasn't been able to do is he hasn't been able to bring back his friends, Terra, Aqua, and Ventus. And that we know is going to get resolved, at least partially, in Kingdom Hearts 3, because he's at least going to know where they are and try to get them back. If he succeeds, we'll have to wait and see. And lastly, Kingdom Hearts Recoded. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, and I'm not going to even jump into it. This is only a movie, just the cutscenes of Recoded. Um, and there's not a whole lot I can say about Recoded. I have not played the actual game of it, but I do know what it's about. And the fact that Sora's in this picture is a little bit of a misnomer. So this takes place after Mickey, Donald, and Goofy get back into Disney Castle. Jiminy takes his two journals from Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 and he just plops them down. And despite them being physical books, I've said this multiple times, all of their information is stored as data, digitally, which I think is really dumb. And the second journal is complete. They're trying to do a side-by-side comparison, but the only thing the first journal says is thank Naminé at the very end. So what they do is they're trying to run programs on it to like restore the original journal so they know what happened, what was the original adventure of Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Because no one in Disney Castle knows that, and they think there's, information in there that can lead back to, potentially figuring out, where the three missing Keyblade wielders are, or, what the organization could have been planning, or what the Disney villains were planning. So they create a data copy of Sora, and again, this goes back to similar to what was going on with Xion, where if something has memories and gains a consciousness, does it actually count as the real thing? And you can argue this with Tron as well. Recoded takes place between the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 and the beginning of the first cutscene we saw after the credits of Kingdom Hearts 2, which is why I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. Because effectively they made a data copy of Sora to go into the journal and uncorrupt the data by fighting corruption, effectively. I think they counted it as Heartless or Nobody's. I don't know fully, but literally it's a ton of mini games and a ton of stuff just to like figure out what happened in Kingdom Hearts 1 by revisiting several worlds. And while doing that, a Data Riku was also created because he was embedded inside of Sora, which is a hint to Dream Drop Distance about Riku constantly being a part of Sora because of that heart connection and always being there to protect him even if he doesn't realize he's working in the background. And ultimately the end of it is, they uncorrupt the book, they read through their adventures, and they're like, they talk about it. Mickey ultimately ends up going to Yen Sid and saying, this is what we found. And Yen Sid's like, the battle ahead is going to be, fraught with conflict. Summon Riku and Sora. It's time they take their mark of masteries. And that's what was in the note at the cutscene at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2. It was a letter from Mickey saying, report to Yen Sid, you guys are taking your mark of mastery. And the Mark of Mastery exam, in its entirety, is Dream Drop Distance. So, I'm pretty sure I covered all my bases here. And again, the big thing to remember about all three of these games is the first couple of games, it was introducing, the members of the members of this group, starting off the series of Kingdom Hearts. And this series of games really expanded on that, expanded on the lore. Kingdom Hearts 2, it kind of, brought one story to an end, because now we really don't have any main antagonists anymore. We've kind of cleaned them all up. There's no more organization, supposedly. Birth by Sleep explained the prequel with Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, the three lost ones. And then Recoded, is, reiterating the fact that, everything is connected. And the most important thing you can take away from with the Kingdom Hearts series is that, the strength of one's heart cannot be underestimated, especially when the strength of the heart is determined by the connections you have with those around you, your loved ones. And that's proof in the pudding with Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, because even though they're all far apart, they're still together. One of the abilities they gained early on, Sora can, drive, Valor Form, Master Form, etc. They have the ability to de-link with anybody they, forge a connection with, which is powerful. And the first, things you get from the get-go are de-links to each other. Terra can de-link into Ventus and to Aqua, gaining their abilities and their strengths and using it as his own, and vice versa. And it's that strength of heart and connection, and the fact that, you can make things real just by, putting your memories into it. And just as easily, even if you forget someone, and they might cease to exist, and I'm talking about, Xion, for this case, you can they're still a part of your heart if you made that connection with them, even if you don't remember them. Your mind might not remember them, but your heart does, and the heart is the most powerful thing in this series. So that is pretty much the summation of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, Birth by Sleep Final Mix, and Recoded. Thank you all for tuning in. If you've been watching my Kingdom Hearts story, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've explained everything succinctly. Again, these games have a ton to unpack, and I could go into much more detail, especially if anybody had any questions, but I didn't see any in my chat as of right now. And yeah, that is the not quite bare bones, but bones with a little bit of meat on it as far as what Kingdom Hearts 2 is, or rather Kingdom Hearts 2.5 is all about. And this, again, builds up to what Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be. And it's all building blocks, and we're going to see how, it all turns out in Kingdom Hearts 3, which, again, releases January 29th, 2019, which, 24 hours away, folks. I succeeded. So, again, thank you all for tuning in to my review of the Kingdom Hearts story. For those of you who are with me from beginning to end, I salute you. Thank you so much. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel below. And if you want to throw a comment down, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have about the Kingdom Hearts lore mythos, either from 2.5, 1.5, any of the games, really. And I will be streaming Kingdom Hearts 3 in about 24 hours. So thank you all for tuning in. This is Izzy 365, and we'll catch you next time. So take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.